Welcome into Take Two with Hawk. He's the Hawk, Dr. Brent Hawkins, Superintendent of Cove ISD. I'm Director of Communications, Kurtis Quillin. Well, Dr. Hawkins, it's the first time in a while we've posted a Take Two with Hawk, and it's a much different format this time. So walk me through. Let's start with the change in approach with one of the things you brought with you as a way to be transparent with the community.
Yeah, we want to make sure that we're hitting on different modalities of communication. And, I've done Take Two with the Hawk in the past. And, we've got obviously a segment of our community that is going to be very print rich as far as paper goes. We've got our digital natives that you'll see on social media. We do Hawks Talk. And so we try to look at Take Two with Hawk and kind of look at the last presidential election and see what was working and what wasn't from a communication standpoint. And definitely the podcast format. There's a segment of our society, community that's out there that we wanted to make sure we were hitting there. And so that we're throwing the largest amount of communication out so that as our constituents are able to take that and process it and stay up to date, and hopefully engage with us as a school district is kind of the goal and purpose of it.
And you've touched on it a lot this week. So we're recording this Friday, April 25th. We had State of the District yesterday, and we'll touch on that later on today. But you've talked a lot about Board of Trustees goals. Well, one of those 3 high point goals that the Board of Trustees set was community relations and transparency. So this is something that is an important initiative from the district, and it's something that you take very seriously.
Well, it fuels everything else because there is no Lone Ranger, there is no Superman. In order to truly build a elite, high-functioning organization, it has to take a lot of hands. And as I've said before, victory has many fathers, but defeat is an orphan. And so when you see high-performing organizations, you see a lot of buy-in and commitment from various people on various levels. And so in order to, our mission every day is to keep kids safe and accelerate learning. And but to truly accelerate learning, it takes multiple people with multiple levels of commitment in order to make that thing happen. And communication is the key to that. If you surveyed the Fortune 500 companies, their employees, the number one thing they're going to say is we don't communicate enough. And it's a reoccurring theme is that as human beings, we need to communicate more and communicate more effectively.
When you see the ways that let me rewind a little bit. What kind of feedback have you gotten? Because some of the stuff that you've implemented, Hawks Talk, I've told people that, as the Director of Communications, this office has not been busier in the 2 years that I've been with Cove ISD, and that it's a good thing. We have more ways of getting the great things happening here in front of everybody in the community. What kind of feedback have you received personally on some of those communications initiatives?
Well, all very positive. And as you talk about that buzz of busyness, I think I echo that same thing because in 32 years in education, the last 4 months has been the busiest of my career. But it is a good busy. It is a good fatigue because where you go, you get members of our community, members of our school district that says, hey, thanks for letting us know about that. Thanks for keeping us updated on that. And I also think that, we were at the Multicultural Fest last night. And so got a lot of feedback and sometimes just being present. Sometimes those modes of communication are, as I like to say, live and in color. People like to see you and be able to just personally ask you that. But from this specific format, I think it will allow us continuous communication that we can push out to make sure that we're going very deep on the issues that affect our district.
And I'm glad you said that. I love a good segue. So with that, and you'll see a lot more of these in this manner moving forward, legislative session is ongoing. Earlier this week, we saw the vote that we've been expecting for 2 years at this point as public school employees. ESAs were approved by both chambers of the House, and it's gone to the governor's desk at this point. How will that affect Copperas Cove ISD and our schools, or is it too soon to tell at this point?
No, I mean, there's a lot of opinions out there, and as I continue to say, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. You're just not entitled to your own facts. You know, I've got an opinion where I think this is going to go, and I could write it down, put it in an envelope, and I think 20 years later, or 10 years later, or 5 years later, you can open that envelope, and I think it's going to become true. It has been posed as choice, and I think we need to take that off the table. Everybody knows and understands that we have 5.5 million students in public education in the state of Texas, and there are other students that are being homeschooled. There are students that are being educated in private schools, and so I don't think there's anybody out there that's flying the flag that we should have less choice. It's how are we going to pay for it? And from that standpoint, there is one of the tenets that is constitutionally mandated, and that is public education. That's in our Texas Constitution. Our forefathers put that there. And since there's been this, what I call just a farce, that if we create more competition, it sounds good. As human beings, we believe in a capitalist society, not a communist society. We believe that competition makes things better. In education, it's different. You know, when you go to your church house, you know, the more churches in town, does that make better religion? I'm not sure that we can prove that. And the same thing with education. Our teachers are working as hard as they can. It's not like they're slacking and that, oh, wait a minute, there's 3 more private schools went into our community. And so all of a sudden now, hey, as a teacher, I'm going to work a little bit harder. Our teachers are called. It is a calling, and they're out there and they're working as hard as they can day and night to make sure they impact the lives of those they serve. And so I think that notion of choice is an illusion. It's an illusion of choice because this ESSA program is creating, it doesn't create any more choices. It's spending $1 billion, and of the $1 billion it's spent, $750 million of it is going to go to kids that's probably already in private schools. So you haven't really pushed anything forward. When the governor says, hey, we want to make Texas #1 in the United States, everybody can agree with him. Everybody can buy in. But then when he says the way to do that is to pass the school choice, universal choice. It's not universal. It affects about 25,000 kids. 25,000 kids at the tune of $1 billion. That's bad business.
Right.
And so how will it affect Cove is I think we have a spirit of competition ourselves, and that spirit of competition is we can win or we can whine about it. And we're not going to spend a lot of time whining about it. We're going to continue to do the things that's made Cove great in the past and make Cove even greater in the future. And that is to adhere to the board goals that the Board of Trustees set out for us. Board of Trustees is supposed to have a very good pulse of what the community wants and to be able to oversee the governance of the management of the school district and do so in a way that meets the community standards. And so I think when you look at those goals, I truly believe that if we can pay the cost of those goals, and cost doesn't always mean money. Sometimes it just means the ability of us as human beings to make a little change.
Right.
That our school district will come out of this. Cove is going to come out of this 5 years, 10 years down the line stronger than it's ever been.
What else from the legislature as the session starts winding down? About a month or so left in the current legislative session. Is there anything else that you're kind of keeping an eye on?
Yeah, well, the first thing we're keeping an eye on is their inability to fully fund public education. And when we talk about that from the standpoint of, well, you just want more money, you want to throw more money at it. No, here's what I want to make sure to do. different than the voucher plan of that we're going to change the geography of where kids are educated. And the governor saying if we pass universal school choice, we can be number one in education. The way that you're number one in education is to make sure the best teachers are recruited and retained in those classrooms. In order to do that, you have to have two things. You have to ensure that you're paying them a competitive wage that's commensurate with what their skill set is. Number two is that your climate of discipline and structure is conducive to them having a peace of mind that they continue to enjoy their jobs, that they're not, in some school district that's just anarchy and chaos. And so when I say fully fund education, I'm saying give local school boards enough funding that they can put us into we're not asking to be the highest paid teachers in the United States. We're just at this point asking to be in the 25th or the 50th percentile. We're at number 44, and our benefits are at 49. And so if we can get teachers to be paid in the 50th percentile, then we can recruit and retain the staff that we need in order to be successful. And so that's easier said than done, because what's proposed right now, and it seems like all that the legislature is willing to do, is to say, hey, here's the largest increase in the state's history, infusion into public education, $8 billion. $8 billion, the way that it is, raises the basic allotment $400. And we know if we just wanted to keep pace with 2019, it's got to be $1,400.
Right.
So we're $1,000 a student short. And I'll clear up a misconception on that. The governor's office and several entities have pushed out that the per pupil cost of education in school districts is $18,000 a student. That is absolutely false. Anybody with any rudimentary math can look at our budget, look at the number of kids. We got about an $80 million budget, and we got a tick under 8,000 kids. And you do the math, it's a whole lot closer to $10 million or $10,000 per student per pupil revenue than it is $18,000. Because here's my point on that. If the governor would and the legislature would fund us at $18,000 per student, I would put magnetic signs and flags on my truck and drive around and be the biggest proponent of ESSA that there's ever been. Because if you want competition, you got to have a level playing field.
Yeah.
And without a level playing field, then there's just not fundamental fairness. The other thing, House Bill 4 is I think they've called it the Teacher Bill of Rights. That thing has been needed for a long time, because what happened is in previous legislative sessions, they changed the compulsory attendance to, come if you want to. They have moved away from that. They moved away from, it's faux pas to corporally punish kids. Some districts do, some districts don't. And then we slid along the way that, hey, some of these kids you can't send home anymore, so you can't suspend kids from school. And then the latest was the commissioner in the past 24 months. The commissioner said you can't put kids in ISS longer than 3 days. And so they're taking all of the discipline tools away. In society, we have to teach kids consequences. And they're taking all the consequences away from the public schools toolbox to be able to do that. So House Bill 4 hopefully will be a good step forward to go back and implement some of those things that correct some of the problems of the past.
And to be clear, that's the bill that's looking at small rewrites, or significant rewrites rather, to Chapter 37.
Chapter 37 of the Ed Code, absolutely. That thing has needed to have been, it was a great Ed Code several years ago, but as we went through legislative sessions, they've amended it and eroded it and watered it down. And so I think this is a good step to push the pendulum back in the other direction. As far as our teachers go, though, Senate Bill 26 is the most dangerous thing that I see out there, and I'm highly concerned about That's the bill that is the teacher pay raise bill. And for the record, I'm not against teacher pay raise. As a matter of fact, I don't know of any superintendent in the state that has been any more pro-teacher salary than me. But the danger of that is sometimes the government is too far from the classroom to figure out what really needs to happen. Locally elected school boards is the ones who needs to figure out how to distribute pay, because Senate Bill 26 says this: if you are in a district that has greater than 5,000 kids, then you're going to get like $5,000 per teacher. But if you're in a district that's less than 5,000 kids, then we're going to give you $10,000 per student. Now, let me tell you how asinine that is. This is truly symptomatic of a problem, of a disease we have, that we can't allow people who's the closest to our kids to make the decisions need to be done. We want to not have local control of schools. We want to control those schools from a further point, because I just came from a school district that I spent a decade in. In that school district, the starting pay was $60,000 a year. Now, it wasn't when I went there; it was $36,000.
Right.
But we were $60,000 a year. Less than 5,000 kids. We had 4,000 kids in that school district. So those teachers under that bill would get a $70,000 starting pay, while the teachers in Cove, who are starting out at $53,000, would only get $5,000. And so now we've got $58,000 starting pay. That is absolutely wrong. There's districts that have done great things with salary schedules. They have went financially into deficit budgets in order to pay their staff and to do the things that they need to do to recruit and retain the best teachers and to stay in front of kids every day. But for the legislature to go in and do that and pay some districts more than other districts, then you're creating haves and have-nots, and that's got to stop.
When you look at deficit budgets, that's something that we're fighting in Copperas Cove as we get set to go through a budget cycle for the 25-26 school year. And, 23-24, the district adopted a $6.5 million deficit budget and got some unexpected impact aid money from the federal government. 24-25, the school year we're finishing up now, it was a closer to a $2 million deficit. And so there's districts that have much more pronounced deficits, but the deficit piece is something that I think the community here can relate to.
Yes, and the thing about that whole deficit deal is that, CCISD was very fortunate to be able to use that impact aid to kind of soften the blow of that deficit and move it out. But every district in the state of Texas inevitably has done the same thing, because the state has not taken care of community schools since 2019. You've had over 50,000 students displaced, their campuses shut down in the state of Texas, and some in very good districts. 125 campuses shut down. So those kids had to choose another avenue or venue, because the state has not paid its share to match inflation over the past 5 years. And so what districts were forced to do was supplement and supplant their budgets using ESSER funds from the federal government. So monies that were really intended to take care of kids' learning gaps and to account for their learning loss was spent just to keep districts afloat and keep the best teachers in front of kids, which was fundamentally unfair.
Moving to our next topic, TEA accountability for the first time in 2 years was released as we're recording this yesterday. We knew it was coming after some lawsuit procedures that had taken place. And if you go to ccisd.com/news now, you can find our ratings for the 2022-23 cycle and the 23-24 cycle, the two that were withheld because of those lawsuits. Talking firstly about the 22-23 ratings, which are the ones that the state has released. CCISD showed a lot of growth where other districts are a little unhappy with how they did. The folks in this building were thrilled you show growth. You go from the with an enhanced rating system, the what if for the 2021-22, which before that release was the last publicly released accountability rating. The what if with the new accountability manual was a 79C from the TEA. In actuality, with the manual at the time, it was an 87B. Now, 22-23, new accountability manual, it's a 85B, which looks like a 2-point drop, but really it's a 6-point growth from the year prior. What does that mean to this community, this district, that where others, we're not going to call out any individual districts on this podcast, but where other districts may not have been as happy with the results, you walk around this building and you have a lot of happy people today.
Yeah, I think it's really a disservice to Copperas Cove ISD that those results wasn't released in 2023. Those results wasn't released in 2024, and here we are in 2025. Because really what it did was diminish the work that students and staff did, the accomplishments that students and staff made. To me, that's just quite the tragedy because, there's phenomenal things. I've been in this district for 4 months, and but make no mistake about it, I did all the research that I could to see what the district was about before I got here. And in fairness, I've been in districts that were in the bottom 5%, and we had to get it in a northerly trajectory. And so I say I've seen the best of times and I've seen the worst of times from the chair of being a superintendent. And, the mentality that I think we got to have is this: quit whining about it. Let's get to work and let's win. Let's win as a community. When you look at the progress that was made, it's the reason that I was attracted to the school district. You have a great staff. You have a great staff of teachers, support staff, administrators, kids, and you have a great staff, or a great community as well that really wants to see the best in Copperas Cove. If we can pull all those things together and work together as a team, we're going to be an A district. And so I think there's great hope and great enthusiasm. The districts that aren't happy with where they are, I hear you. And I think you were treated very poorly. And I think that out of fundamental fairness, the whole implementation of changing the test, changing the context of the test, changing the cut scores on the test, changing the format on the test, and then changing the way that schools were rated. All those changes hit when we haven't fully recovered from COVID yet. And so, but you got to put all that aside because you can't control those things.
Right.
What can you control is your next step forward. And I think that's what they've got to do, is to start making sure that they're aligned in curriculum. Making sure that their instruction is aligned, making sure that that they're making the adjustments that they need through interventions for their kids, and that they're truly making sure that learning is occurring in their school districts, because it is in Copperas Cove. Everybody has a beast that they're wrestling with, and our beast is to make sure that come 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the line, that CCISD brand is just like it is today. And like I say, it's took some of our thunder out because we haven't been able to showcase the great things in our district, but we have great hope for where we're going to go, because I think the gap is going to continue to widen, so that, when the dust settles over the next implementation of our board of directors goals that they put out here, that this place is going to continue to build off of the success of the past, but it's going to get even more special in the future.
Still on the 22-23 cycle, you look at star distinctions. Out of the 11 campuses, 9 are eligible for distinctions, with May Stevens and Crossroads ineligible. Out of those 9, all of them got at least one, but you had 4 of them get at least 5 distinctions. There's only 6 available at the elementary level. There's 7 at the secondary level because social studies, it gets added for the junior highs and the high school. To see half the district get 5 or more distinctions, SC Lee goes 5 for 7, Martin Walker goes 5 for 6, and Fairview, Jewel, and Hetty Hallstead both go a perfect 6 for 6 on distinctions. For the average consumer of public school information, how important is that?
Well, I think that is just another a badge of honor that we bear. I think when you try to put it, sometimes TEA in the state of Texas tries to make things so complicated that most people can't understand it. And so I use analogies most of the time. And so the analogy I use is this: if you've had a kid that played basketball, your team can do real well. You can get all the way to the state championship just by being a great team and having great chemistry. Well, that's that rating. The A through F rating is how well did my team do? Because that's all about that. But when you look at, I had the offensive MVP, or I had the defensive MVP, or I had the first team all district or first team all state, those superlatives are really what those designations are. And so when you look at them, that's outstanding performance in one silo or segment of the greater overall rankings or ratings that TEA's put out. The thing that makes our designation so special to me is that, when you look at the most economically disadvantaged campuses in our district, they're performing at a very high level. Those 2 campuses that you mentioned there are the most economically disadvantaged, and they go 6 for 6. That shows that our district is providing the resources that we need to close the gaps of generational cycles of poverty.
23-24, state has not released it, but we've been cleared to do it, and we did so at State of the District this week. And in that same press release, district moves from an 85B in 2023 to an 88B. Because the state hasn't released it yet, we don't have the distinctions for that year yet, but to continue to show growth in another year where accountability was enhanced again, as I believe the TEA would word it, does that just show, you mentioned this district is on a path to be an A district. Joan Manning, the president of the CCISD Board of Trustees, said that as State of the District. That's the goal, A district and keep growing. How close, given that 2024 rating, are we as a district to that milestone?
Well, every district has challenges, and I think our greatest challenges is knowing who's going to be where. On a good team, you look out on first base and you know who's going to be standing on first base. You know who's on the pitcher's mound. But one of our particular challenges is the mobility of our students. And so I have a hard time buying into destination goals. When you look at the past 3 years of being a B district, I think the thing that you have to keep in context is that all those kids are different, because we do serve right at 50% of our district is military connected, and so we know that those students are very mobile. I mean, they may be in Germany, they may be in Japan. And then in 2 years they may come back to us, and so I think when you think about where CCISD is, the thing that we've got to do is trust the process, and the process is focusing on adding value to every kid. If we add value to every kid, those things take care of themselves. As you've seen the teacher incentive allotment, those teachers are getting those monies based on how well of value that they add from one year to the next on those students and their student outcomes. And so I think that's the deal. We know what our goal is. We know where we're trying to get, but we've got to focus on adding value every day to our students.
And one of the ways that we've worked on doing that is, you talk about it all the time, you win and you lose with people. This week's been a busy week in these 3 offices here. 2 of the major events that were in charge of the Employee of the Year banquet. We honored 38 department or campus employees of the year. Auxiliary departments, we had 7 nominees from there. We had 11 paraprofessionals, 9 rookie teachers, and then all 11 campuses had a teacher of the year, and we got to honor them this week. You look at the winners that we had. Auxiliary, Jessica Farron, lead custodian at House Creek. Paraprofessional, Mary Kay Richmond at May Stevens. Rookie teacher of the year, Kyra Cavazos over at Martin Walker Elementary. Elementary teacher of the year, LJ Go from Williams Ledger. And then, of course, the secondary teacher of the year this year, Madison Seifert, and the CTE wing over at Copperas Cove High School. To have people like them and to be able to celebrate those kinds of people, to be able to positively affect those students, like you just said, what would you want the community to know about what we were able to celebrate this week with those 38 and especially those 5?
Well, you threw out 38 names, and you threw out 5 that stood there at the very end, and I think the community needs to realize that it was a lot of competition. Those weren't easy nods to those folks, and they could have gone a lot of different ways, and a different person been standing there, and we're proud of the ones that were. But the staff that we have out there is doing a fantastic job of educating kids and building relationships with kids. And as I said, we're not perfect by any means, but it's kind of funny to me because in other districts, I've said, hey, I know we had the teacher of the year and this and that, but we're not going to put them on social media. We're not going to put them on our website. And I've even went as far as there's been years to where we had every teacher on our school district website, and we pulled all the staff down during certain times of the year. Why? Keep other districts from cannibalizing our staff, to keep other districts from recruiting it.
That's not what I thought you were going to say.
Well, inevitably, it is a bloodbath out there as far as getting those people. When you win and lose with people, they are important, and they're what makes everything tick. And so you don't want people to pull your people away. And so, but here in Cove, I think the thing is the culture. I think that they know if they go somewhere else, the Cove culture is not there. If they do make a mistake and go somewhere else, I think I've seen over the course of my looking at data, we see a lot of teachers return. We see a lot of students go to college and come back and teach here. There is something very special about the culture and climate here in Cove. And so I'm not really worried about folks out recruiting us or getting our people away. I think most of them have a lot of commitment to our district and what we're trying to do. The thing that I would say is the second thing in the governor's task force that he looked at in teacher retention is salaries. And we went through a staffing study. We're going through a salary study. And we're going to make sure that, we're paying a fair market wage for our staff, because that's, that if they commit to us and they have that commitment, then we've got to commit to them and make sure that we're doing those things as well. And once we do that, we're going to see a staff that's very stable here in Cove. And
that the staffing part of that study has already been presented to the trustees.
Correct.
You can go and you can see that presentation for yourself on the CCISD YouTube channel with the April regular workshop. Another event this week, State of the District. We got to update the community on everything happening. Like you said, not perfect, but not bad either. To be able to give that performance report and show the community, here's where we are. Here's where the rest of the state is. Out of 20 STAR tests, I think I counted something like 15 to 18 tests, STAR and EOC, where CCISD is outperforming the state. What were your thoughts walking away from State of the District this week?
Thank God. It was a very easy State of the District to deliver, because there's so much positive that you can talk about, and we did focus obviously on the ratings and rankings and the student outcomes, but at the end of the day, that's just a small segment of what goes on in school systems.
Right.
But when I look at and have now had the opportunity to look at everybody else's in the state ratings that's out there, you know, and I look at our demographic, you know, some kids are harder to educate than others. Some kids cost more to educate than others. And there's factors that attribute to that. You know, students with different home languages than English are more expensive to educate because you have to have special programs. That's in the state funding formula. So that's not an opinion. That's a fact. When you look at our demographic, and then you look at the A districts that's out there, they don't look like us.
No.
And so when you factor in that we are a majority socioeconomically disadvantaged district, and I've said we're one of the best districts in Central Texas, definitely one of the best districts in our part of Central, or the best district in our part of Central Texas. But when you look at all the factors and you lay it out, you know, we're not Barbers Hill.
Which was the exact district I was thinking of when you were talking about the demographics in A districts.
That's the highest paying district, or has been the highest paying district in the state of Texas.
And it's one of the wealthiest in the state.
It is one of the wealthiest because they have 313 agreements. They have refineries there that, you know, millions and millions of dollars pour into that school district. It's a whole different funding mechanism. And Dr. Poole does a fabulous job with that district. And I'm proud for them. They have a fabulous thing going on there, and there's other districts that out there that are affluent, you know. And in Central Texas, the districts that the minimal amount of districts that did score higher than us, the mamas and daddies of those students are more affluent. Those students have more opportunities. They have more access to things, and so. When you go into things for a calling, though, and you look at Cove and you look at the difference in the lives that our staff is making, to me, that's more special. So I'll take a B any day, considering where we are and knowing that, you know, we're not using socioeconomic status as an excuse.
No.
Our kids at some point are going to perform on the highest of levels.
Then you look through there, and there's student achievements in there. And the annual performance report, for anyone who wants to see it, posted on the website already, ccisd.com/superintendent. And there's student achievements in there. Fairview Jewel has archers that go to state, placed in the top 5. You have the band that swept. Every single ensemble in Copperas Cove ISD earned a superior rating from the UIL. You have the chess team at Cove Junior High, state champions, with an individual state champion as well, to celebrate those students, in addition to the data, because we're a school. Those test scores matter because that's how the state holds us accountable, is those test scores. We hold ourselves accountable as a district from some of those other student successes as well, to be able to share those with the community. That's important, and I don't know that people understand just how important it is to be able to celebrate what might seem like small things, but can carry a kid through school.
Yeah, we didn't get any bonus points for our cheer team being top 10 in the state of Texas in 6A for
Right.
UIL. You know, that wasn't factored into those A through F ratings.
Right.
You know, I'm not sure how fundamentally fair that is because, you know, while our extracurricular activities, you know, there's some folks that think that public schools spend too much money. Well, that's 3% of our budget. 3% of our budget. 97% of our budget's out there doing something else. But there is a lot of participation in that 3% of the budget that builds the whole child, and we're being successful in that as well. But like I said, how fair is it that you're going to say, okay, I'm going to get on realty, or this realty side here, excuse me, and I'm going to look to find a place that I want to move for my children. And you find this A district or B district out here, and you move there. But in all inevitability, we didn't get any credit for the cheer team. We didn't get any credit for the archers. We didn't get any credit for our band. We didn't get any credit for any of those things. It's just something that's, you know, just pushed to the side, and that's a shame because at the end of the day, if it's not in there, did you really value it?
Right.
Because right now, our legislature values standardized testing. And as I said at State of the District, I've never had an employer come to me and say, "Hey, we need more. We need you to train our workforce so that when they come out of high school, we can employ these students in this job, and I want to make sure that they do a good job of passing a standardized test." They don't do that. Employers want skills, both hard skills and soft skills, but never have I heard a discussion about standardized tests. The legislature is the people who value that the most, and it's a shame that our extracurricular and co-curricular experiences aren't put in there. You know, things like agriculture. You got LDEs and CDEs and real important leadership building contests that, you know, really isn't factored into the scores.
Right. As we wrap up, you know, front page of the newspaper this morning, we saw, you know, and we haven't been quiet about it as a district, but the May board meeting moving to the auditorium, something that I don't know when the last time that happened was, but the point of this, and I'd like you to elaborate on it, moving the May regular board meeting from the boardroom in this building that we are sitting in now to Lee Ledger Auditorium, is trying to give those families whose kids are being celebrated at the meeting a more positive experience.
Absolutely. And you know, the thing about it is tying those two thoughts together is the legislature may not do anything to acknowledge all the co and extracurricular activities that our kids do, and even academic activities, because, you know we have 5 U.S. News and World Report campuses, best of elementary schools in the state of Texas, right here in Cove. And so, you know, a lot of parents want their kids in the best. Well, we've got them.
Yeah.
But showcasing that, acknowledging that is something that I'm proud to serve with a board of trustees that feels that's important. That feels that's important for these kids that aren't factored into A through F and their accomplishments. If the state's not going to recognize it, the trustees of Cove is. And so I couldn't be any more proud to serve for a district that does that. And then the quality of student we have has run us out of the boardroom. We don't have the capacity to put as many acknowledgments or many kids to be acknowledged into the boardroom without the fire marshal coming and shutting us down. So we've got to move to a bigger facility, but especially for a parent. I've been a parent of three girls, and I know that it's a great deal to see your kid acknowledged for the hard work that they put in. Competition doesn't just happen by chance. The accelerated growth that comes out of that, there's a lot of things that people don't see in preparation and commitment and work that goes in to get the final product of the victory. And then, you know, to have your child sit up there and be acknowledged by the board of trustees and the school board is something that grandparents, parents, and family takes great pride in. And we don't want them to be cramped on that night that they're acknowledged. We want them to come and be able to relax and enjoy that moment, because kids grow up fast. Yeah. You blink your eye. I mean, it's truly, life is like a vapor. And, you know, my kids was babies and now they're grown. And so I understand that as a parent, and I very much want them to have a good experience on that night.
Anything else you're looking forward to?
Continuing podcast. I think this is a great medium, and I think that we'll continue to push out a whole lot of information and really tear down some barriers and misunderstandings for our district so that we can all engage and work closer together.
Well, Dr. Hawkins, thank you for your time, and I look forward to another Take Two soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
For Dr. Brent Hawkins, Superintendent of Schools, and all of us at Copperas Cove ISD, I'm Director of Communications, Kurtis Quillin, saying thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Take Two.